the exact location of Atlantis and the date of the Atlanta attack, according to ancient Greek texts. Although Atlantis is considered a myth of Plato, other ancient Greeks have been mentioning this lost continent. At the same time, tons of texts fill modern books and maps with its possible location, while researchers dive into the sea and look for it. Archaeologists and geomythologists analyze the documents. According to Dr. Elena Mitropetru, the lecture provides scientific answers about the exact location of Atlantis and the dating of the Atlantean invasion of Europe and Asia based on the original texts of Timaeus and Critias and the methods of geomythology. The lecture was given in Athens at the site of the Society for the Study of Ancient Greek Mythology in the ground floor of the Hall of the National Research Foundation, April 19, 2018. The speech summary says, scientific answers to the exact location of Atlantis and the dating of the Atlantean invasion of Europe and Asia based on the original texts of Timaeus and Critias and the methods of geomythology. After Plato, countless books on Atlantis have been written by philosophers, scientists, and mere researchers. But if the text of Plato, the creator of the relevant myth, which accurately describes the location and geomorphology of Atlantis, and especially its capital and the plain, but also the time of the events, are set aside or misinterpreted, then everyone can imagine and write whatever he wants. Now, a brief of the curriculum vitae of the speaker. Dr. Elena Mitropano, the archaeologist, geomythologist since 2008, working with as a field archaeologist in rescue excavations under the supervision of Ministry of Culture of Greece, and participated in many systematic excavations in Greece and abroad, and published numerous papers and articles in scientific journal and conference proceedings. Participated in scientific teams of Professor of Geophysics Stavros Papamarinopoulos, astronomically dated the Trojan War and the return of Ulysses. These papers were officially announced at the public plenary session of the Academy of Athens by the President of the Academy, October 19, 2017, and posted on the NASA website. And authored also 2-volume work, The Beginning of Greek Geomythology, published by Aegis. So this is what she says. Dating the Atlantean invasion of Europe and Asia, based on original texts of Timaeus and Critias and the methods of geomythology. I've translated this from a Greek article. It does not state where the location is or the date. According to the dialogue of Critias, one of Plato's late dialogues, recounts the story of the mighty island kingdom Atlantis and its attempt to conquer Athens, which failed due to the ordered society of the Athenians. Critias is the second of a projected trilogy of dialogues preceded by Timaeus, followed by Hermocrates. Now, according to the contents, essentially the story is about a good city and a city gone bad, and the divinely arranged therapeutic punishment of a bad city by its defeat at the hands of the good. According to Critias, in ancient times, the earth was divided among the gods by allotment. The gods treated the humans in their districts as much as shepherds treat sheep, tending and guiding them like nurslings and possessions. They did this not by force, but by persuasion. In those days, the areas which are now the islands of Greece were high hills covered by good soil. A number of great deluges came, including the global flood of Noah, and as we call him, Lefkaliona, the man of good omen. And because no soil washed down from the mountains to replace the lost soil, the soil in that land was stripped away, causing much of the area to sink out of sight, and the islands that remained to become the bones of a dead body, quote unquote. Athens in those days was very different. The land was rich and water was brought in from underground springs, which were later destroyed by an earthquake. He describes the civilization of Athens, and at that time is ideal, pursuing all virtue, living in moderation, and excelling in their work. He then moves on to describe the origins of Atlantis. He said that Atlantis was allotted to Poseidon. Poseidon fell in love with a mortal girl named Clito, daughter of Evenor and Leucippe, and she bore him a number of children, the first of which was named Atlas, who inherited the kingdom and passed it on to his firstborn for many generations. Critias then goes into a great deal of detail in describing the island of Atlantis and the temple to Poseidon and Clito on the island, and refers to the legendary metal orichalcum. What is orichalcum? It's a metal mentioned in several ancient writings, including the story of Atlantis of Critias and Plato, claiming that orichalcum had been considered second only to gold in value and had been found and mined in many parts of Atlantis. So Critias then reiterates the remarkable virtue of the Atlanteans, saying, "For many generations, as long as the divine nature lasted in them, they were obedient to the laws and well affectioned towards the gods, whose seed they were, for they possessed true and in the very way great spirits, uniting gentleness with wisdom in the various chances of life, and in their intercourse with one another, they despised everything but virtue, caring little for their present state of life and thinking lightly of the possession of gold and other property, which seemed only a burden to them. Neither were they intoxicated by luxury, nor did wealth deprive them of their self-control, but they were sober and saw clearly that all these goods are increased by virtue and friendship with one another, whereas by too great regard and respect for them, they are lost in friendship with them. However, the Atlanteans became corrupt, as when the divine portion began to fade away and became diluted too often and too much with the mortal admixture, and the human nature got the upper hand, then they, being unable to bear their fortune, behaved unseeingly, and to him who had an eye to see grew visibly debased, for they were losing the fairest of their precious gifts, but to those who had no eye to see the true happiness, they appeared glorious and blessed at the very time when they were full of avarice and unrighteous power. Critias then says that Zeus, the god of gods, seeing the corruption of the Atlanteans, determined to chastise them, and Zeus begins to speak, but what he says and everything that follows in the Critias remains non-extant. In other words, that text has been lost. This is from Wikipedia as well. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.